time on laundry, more time for you with Samsung's innovative quick drive technology. For more information, go to powercity.ie or call in store today.
Supermax limited Christmas edition, the festive 5-ounce. Made with fresh, never frozen, 100% prime Irish beef and cooked to order. Topped with caramelised onion and mushroom, melted cheese and creamy peppercorn mayo in a freshly baked Kaiser bun. The festive 5-ounce at Supermax. The freshness is in the taste. Save time, order online or download our app, supermax.ie.
The winner takes it all. Money, money, money. Gold!
I've told you already, we can't change the song. We actually bought the lifetime rights.
The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €6 million. Great news for almost everyone. Play responsibly in-app, in-store or at lottery.ie.
Give the gift of luxury this Christmas with a voucher for the Brehon Killarney. Overlooking the National Park and home to the renowned Angsana Spa, the Brehon is an award-winning hotel located in one of the most beautiful places on earth. Exceptional service in exceptional surroundings. Purchase your Christmas gift voucher today at thebrehon.com.
You can get all your Christmas shopping done in one place at Swords Pavilions. From treats and presents to food and gift cards, we've got it all. There's 2 hours free parking and it's so convenient, right off the M1. So grab your little helpers and head on over. Jingle all the way. Christmas at Swords Pavilions. Festive fashion and fun for the whole family.
Did you know that right now Carew protects the public by regulating over 15,000 health and social care professionals in Ireland? If you are receiving care from one of the regulated professions, you can visit our website to check if they're registered. So far, registers are open for dietitians, dispensing opticians, occupational therapists, optometrists, physiotherapists, radiographers, radiation therapists, social workers, and speech and language therapists. Our work is ongoing. You can see a list of all professions designated for regulation on our website carew.ie.
Celebrate Christmas with Centra. We have great offers in store. Try our new Inspired by Centra all butter pastry mince pies, half price now €2. Inspired by Centra pizza range, any 2 for €8 or €5 each. And Yellowtail and Rare Vineyard selected wine range, 3 for €20 or €9 each. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
Going on a hot air balloon ride with no clothes on. Ziplining over a field of fresh wild mint. Driving up the side of Crontoul in a convertible. There are many ways you could get a refreshing lift, but we reckon having a bottle of the all-new Kenko Ice Brew cold coffee is the best and the easiest. Expertly crafted with no more than 74 calories, Kenko Ice Brew is coffee with a refreshingly different pick-me-up. Find it bottled in the chiller today. Kenko, Cafficionado since 1923.
For me, it was an easy decision. The cost savings of the fuel, the insurance and the car tax, that's the price of a holiday.
With self-charging Toyota hybrids, the savings really do add up. Enjoy a trade-in booster of up to €3,000 and 3 years servicing as standard. Available now on the new limited edition 20th anniversary Yaris and the Toyota CHR, Ireland's best-selling hybrid car. Toyota. Built for a better world. Terms and conditions apply.
The winner takes it all. Money, money, money. Gold!
I've told you already, we can't change the song. We actually bought the lifetime rights.
The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €6 million. Great news for almost everyone. Play responsibly in-app, in-store or at lottery.ie.
Electric Picnic 2019, the Music and Arts Festival. Stradbally Hall, County Laois, August 30th to September 1st, subject to licence. A beautiful 600-acre estate of rolling hills, green landscapes, forests of mystery, and home to Ireland's music soul. With incredible music, art, theatre, comedy, food, and holistic health. It's the most delightfully diverse lineup of the year. Electric Picnic. Tickets on sale this Monday at 9 a.m. See electricpicnic.ie.
As the time to gather round and give approaches, it's time to gather and decide what to give. To family, friends and loved ones. Gather at Gifted, Ireland's best contemporary craft and design fair in the RDS. Enjoy the work of more than 400 top designers and makers and discover tantalising tastes from over 100 of the country's leading food producers. Gifted at the RDS Dublin. Hundreds of designers, thousands of gift ideas. Wednesday 5th to Sunday 9th of December. Details at giftedfair.ie.
At Kenwood, we have a range of mixers to suit every cooking style. So whether you're an experienced chef or just starting out, you'll find your ideal kitchen companion in store or online at powercity.ie.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster-than-ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
There's nothing hipster about liking Zidane. The hipster choice from that era is Riquelme or Pablo Aimar.
Oh, Riquelme.
See, I'm not saying liking Zidane was hipster. Clearly not.
Riquelme was probably my favourite footballer of all time.
But actually sitting through
that's a bit hipster.
That movie
Aimar is pretty hipster, yeah. But that Ariel Ortega was a bit earlier.
Oh,
yeah.
No, actually, he would have overlapped a bit with Figo, obviously. But Ortega was a smashing player.
Riquelme was ridiculous. There was nobody like him the way he played.
Nowadays, you'd have to go for Makelele out of that Real Madrid team to be a true hipster. God, listen, he's the one who keeps everything.
Because it's cool, because nobody notices him as much.
Exactly. Exactly. There's been another goal at the King Power Stadium. It is Leicester City against Watford. Derek Clark.
Leicester City 2, Watford 0. It's an absolutely fantastic goal from the Foxes, from James Maddison. It was a terrific counter-attacking move. Jamie Vardy played the ball out wide to Mark Albright, and he simply played a one-time ball crossfield into Maddison. He chested it, kneed it, took it by Mariappa, and then volleyed it past Ben Foster to make it Leicester 2, Watford 0.
Let's see what's happening at Selhurst Park. Palace against Burnley. Andrew Cheal.
Crystal Palace 1, Burnley 0. It remains. James McArthur has been officially credited with the goal. Max Meyer looked as if he might have got a touch, but didn't in fact. So McArthur gets the credit. Palace have had a couple of other decent chances. One excellent save by the goalkeeper. Burnley really do not look a threatening side at all. It's still Crystal Palace 1, Burnley 0.
So we were talking to Luis Figo and we mentioned the exhibition that's taking place down in Dublin Castle, and there was a launch last night. Quite a few of the Euro 88 team were down there, and Mick McCarthy and Stephen Kenny were both at it, and that's going to be my highlight, I think, of the next 2 years. The many awkward photo calls and press functions.
Absolutely.
Where they have to turn up together.
Yeah.
And smile.
I don't think it's the worst thing for Mick, and if it'll kind of freshen him up a bit with a view to his inevitable return to club football, because he's kind of the type of guy who just seems to be, until the day he drops dead, he'll be managing a football team. And as he said himself, he has a job to do. It's get us qualified, and that's a success. And after that, then
what do you want from Stephen Kenny over the next 2 years?
Well, you see, it's a difficult one because, I think people are broadly aware now that he won't actually manage an entire under-21 campaign, and depending on the way the fixtures roll, he might have very few competitive matches. So it's actually very hard for anything he does in that interim period, effectively, to be measured by results. You can get a couple of good friendly results. Okay, I'm sure there'll be a bit more scrutiny and attention on his first qualifiers that he plays.
Well, does he need to set out his stall with regards style of football and tactics in those under-21 games? Because you say, even if he did have quite a few games, it's probably unfair in a way to judge him solely on results, because he may not have his best players if they're called up to the senior squad. But what people will want to see over the next 2 years is a style of football that is more attractive, that he is laying down the foundations of something that will last to 4 years' time, to 6 years' time.
Yeah, well, is
that something that's going to be very difficult for him to do?
Yeah, there's limitations as to what you can do in the sort of gatherings that you have, but look, this thing is thrown together a bit, and there's no doubt about that. It was thrown together, and I don't think it was some master plan that was crafted. I think it was a solution at the last minute. However, it's so crazy it might work. I've heard that line. I think Brian Kerr said something like that yesterday, and I can see the logic that there is a chance for Kenny. One of the arguments was, about Kenny, that would he win over the dressing room or whatever, the respect. I know you and Kev had a big debate about it, and I didn't really necessarily agree with it. But
you thought I was right. Thanks.
Yeah. But at the same time, if you have the likes of, say, Troy Parrott and Obafemi and Adam Ida and whoever you think the players might be in the next generation, the stars of the next generation as such, that it gives him a chance to familiarise himself with them, for them with him, to see where they fit into his style of play in his system, so that when he hits the ground running and he walks into the dressing room as senior manager for the first time, he has familiar faces looking back at him who know him and know what he's about. So that's what you want to see. I know he wants to go and travel and meet under international coaches, see how they do things.
And actually, this position makes him a far more open to being allowed to do that. Obviously, I know people have pointed out, well, he's going to be involved in international weeks, but there's other times you can go to Gareth Southgate and meet him in St George's Park and sit down for a couple of days and pick apart what England have done to restore confidence and a bit of humility and things that have worked.
That'll get on very well.
But also maybe if you were actually the senior team manager right now, you couldn't do that. You couldn't go cap in hand to Gareth Southgate looking for a bit of advice because it'd be seen as a weakness. Whereas right now for Stephen Kenny, actually, it's seen as a sign of strength that he's able to go and learn something.
Open doors. Now, he actually did that already. He's already been doing, as Dundalk manager, he did go, and I think he went to clubs in Europe and went to sort of...
well, he told us he was doing co-commentary with us on a Newcastle game last season. He'd spent a bit of time at Rafa Benitez.
Yeah, he did.
A guy who would literally talk football all day.
But it does open doors. You know, his status will open doors, and it is a bit of an investment in him.
He can't go beyond his brief though as well. You know, he's not the manager for the next 2 years, and that's got to be pointed out.
No,
Mick
he can't step
McCarthy's
on
the manager,
toes.
and that's that relationship.
How would he step on toes?
I don't know, like just being, you know, I don't know. It's
developing relationship with the existing players, like that's maybe overstepping it. You know, he obviously has to get to know them. It's like he's not manager.
Yeah.
And Mick McCarthy has a very, very important job to do in the future of Irish football to get us qualified.
Yeah, he's going to have to be coy in terms of any press stuff he does, because, you know, if the senior team starts playing in a way that's not hugely attractive, you know, and you know that's not madly different from what was before, I think we have expectations that it will be better, but we don't know. Like, we don't know if that's
well, as you said. Listen, it's all very well. There's a buzz back under Mick McCarthy and what may happen over the next 4 years, but
the football will
get
be better.
Germany and France in your first 2 games, you suffer 2 heavy beatings. Suddenly the questions asked are going to be very different. Yeah, I was wondering on what, from say and listen, maybe reading too much into how important the media side of this is, but what he does for the next 2 years, it feels as though his best option is just keep himself out of the spotlight as much as possible. But that is going to be difficult when he has to do his press conferences for the under-21s, which usually there's 6 or 7 people at and nobody really talks about it. Right now, as you say, if Ireland aren't going well, everybody's going to be at them asking Stephen Kenny, what do you think is going wrong?
I think he spoke to Marion Finucane, was it today or yesterday, and he said things about the Irish team that were entirely inconsistent with what he said when Martin O'Neill had the job. And we spoke to him a few months ago when he said, like, you know, you shouldn't be asking me about that. Martin O'Neill is a manager. Of course, one day I'd like to manage Ireland, but now he's changed. So he was obviously tactically coy all along with that as well. He wanted the job, but he would never speak down of Martin O'Neill, speak ill of Martin O'Neill.
I think he got on well with Martin O'Neill on a personal level as well.
But today he said there's been a disconnect for about 10 years with the international team. And this is going back to obviously the Trapp era. So he was basically saying we've been playing crap football for at least the last 2 managers. And he's right.
That interaction with those younger players you talk about as well, the likes of Troy Parrott, who are 16, 17, 18 now, like that is important, because actually the Ireland job is a job that gives you time by and large. Mick McCarthy is going to be something of an exception, that in terms of management, you get a good role at it. You get Martin O'Neill got 5 years, Trapattoni got 6 years, Mick McCarthy got 6 years. People get time if they do a decent job. And one of the problems for Martin O'Neill was because there was that disconnect. Guys who were 18, 19 when he started out were 23, 24 when he finished, and were never really part of the setup. You never got a full sense that he knew those players and had brought them on in any way.
Well, that was wasn't that line from the O'Neill unveiling, something like, you know, I'm told there's some good players that are 16, like a fat lot of good that does for me, but actually, you know, they were 21 by the end of it. Now, I'm not necessarily sure who those players were, because we don't have like a, you know, that sort of 21 age group at the moment, you know, maybe like they've been slow developers. But yeah, no, you are right. And I mean, Stephen Kenny is someone who knows the terrain of Irish football very well, very naturally. He'll know, like he was able to reel off a list of, like, you know, League of Ireland eligible under 21 players, and I'm sure, I know he's a sort of a very detailed sort of fellow who I'm sure is has been following stuff in England very closely too. But it's funny you mention about you know, keeping the head down and stuff. But obviously he was on that Marion Finucane show this morning, and I think, you know, like there is obviously the political aspect to this, that I think the FAI, you know, they face a lot of questions consistently about the League of Ireland and stuff, that I feel like in response to that, Kenny's going to be put forward at a lot of, you know, different opportunities. You know,
paid for ambassadorial role.
His name is going to be used, you know, in these debates. I've no doubt that would be the case. And, you know, if any future allegations of neglect or not looking at the league or whatever, well, you know, we've got Stephen Kenny in there now. You know, he knows the league. He knows. So
games every Friday night.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he will be. And this is the thing. I mean, like, he's as under-21 manager, like, mean, which is still his primary brief as much as he's overseeing the others, like, it's not necessarily the most glamorous games you're going to be going to. You know, you're going to be going to a lot of League of Ireland games, and you're going to be going to watch lads playing for Rochdale and for wherever they may be on loan, or you know, because we don't have a load of them at elite clubs. So I mean, he's going to be around visibly meeting people, you know, and talking to people, and I guess it does give everyone playing here, you know, and everyone involved here, it does give them a genuine sense of encouragement that if they can time their run perfectly, that 2 years from now, when it's a different type of campaign, that there might just be an opportunity for them. So I can see
there aren't really outstanding candidates within the League of Ireland at the moment, or there aren't many.
No, but I'm talking about 2 years from now. Yeah,
but like that even could develop into that. Like,
well, I think. Well, this time last year, would we have talked about Ronan Curtis as a future senior international?
I'm not sure how far Ronan can go, but
well, he's going pretty far. He's gone pretty far. He's hit the ground running at League One level, and I think they're gonna have interest in him very soon. So, but like, this is the level our squad is at, Johnny. Like, we're not talking about like if someone can get to championship level, they will play for Ireland pretty much. So, are there players in the league at the moment who can get to that level? Absolutely. Yeah,
McLenny will be the interesting one, because I'd be surprised if he doesn't call him up.
Well, see, McLean's going to be 28 at that stage, you know. So no, I mean, I think he would look at it, but I mean, it does give these lads a push, you know. The likes of Jamie McGrath, people like this, you know, Trevor Clark. Like there are players in the league who've got, you know, developing to do.
Some of the young lads as well.
Yeah, the Bows lads. This will push them. Yeah. It gives them a great sense of encouragement. So that is, but I mean, there was a populist element to this as well, that we were having this debate in a very positive terms.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Like that's, John Delaney's done a lot of this for self-preservation. There's no doubt about that.
And it's so crazy it might just work.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. Like, I always say that we just can't judge the health of Irish football by the senior team. Yet it is the most important revenue generator, and you know, the mood can be shaped by that. And we only ever have these massive state and nation debates around what's going wrong with Irish football when the senior team loses a match, and you know, rather than we should be having it when the senior team is winning matches as well.
Yeah,
you know,
part of my frustration actually, and even that night when myself and Kevin were talking about it, part of my frustration with the whole process was that, okay, we got to this scenario, as you say, it might just work. But it all happened in the space, in the end, probably within 48 hours.
Yeah.
That, on that Wednesday night, Martin O'Neill had been sacked, had left 12 hours earlier. Yet we were sitting having a conversation where Mick McCarthy was most definitely the right man for the job. That already it was decided that Mick McCarthy, rather than pausing for a couple of weeks and having a proper conversation about Irish football at all levels, and maybe it's never going to happen, maybe it's ridiculous to think it would happen, and that's why we might play it. I thought Damien Duff, I don't necessarily agree with it, or I'm not 100% sure if he's correct, but I thought at least it was a different aspect of a debate about Irish football and creating Irish footballers. It was on RT in the Champions League. Well, actually, I think we have the audio there. We'll play what Damien Duff had to say about coaching young players in Ireland at the moment.
I agree with the National League. I know DDSL people have a problem with that, but I think it's been amazing. I've been involved with the Under-15 League this year.
At Rovers, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously Under-13 is coming in as well. My problem, and always been my problem, is kids, and I think the kids can take responsibility as well, and coaches at their clubs. Kids don't touch a ball enough, that's first, and that will never change. They can train more at their clubs. So this season, like, I get slaughtered for it in this country for training my lads 5 times a week, train at 6:30 in the morning, do a double chest and you're back at 6:30 at night. I get slaughtered. That's dinosaur mentality. You have to train 5 times a week. I went to play Chelsea during the season, they train 7 times a week, but most teams train twice, maybe 3 times a week. So that's a problem already. Do we play enough games? Absolutely not. I wrote down, because I checked earlier, we had our first game on March the 25th. We had the whole month of June off, completely off, and I know there's exams and all, and my season ended on the end of October. So that's 6 months of football. So for me, there should be another, on top of that, 4 months, 4.5 months. And because
I can hear parents saying that, oh, well, look, they're only kids. You know,
listen, absolutely. Well, 15-year-olds are dedicating their life to wanting to be a footballer. So if they want to become a footballer, this is what you need to do. So, you know, again, training, the season's over now. There's no competitive football. So I think a lot of teams, and I know it's hard for coaches myself, I don't have an awful lot on to get and coach these guys, but, you know, Diddy, we were speaking earlier off the air, these kids need to be training 11 months a year. But because there's no competitive football, they're probably training 8-9 months a year. So they do not touch a ball enough, and that's an absolute fact. If there's good players coming through, which there is, but the difference between good and great is 11 months a year, training 7 days a week.
We'll come back to that in 1 second, but there's been a goal at the Etihad Stadium. Manchester City against Bournemouth. Darren Stanich.
It's Manchester City 1, Bournemouth 1. You have to say it's been coming in. It was a cross from the right-hand side, left-footed curled in, and their rising highest was Callum Wilson to head past the keeper just before the break. Man City 1, Bournemouth 1.
And if you're thinking of texting in going, you're talking about Irish football and you just broke away from it to go to the Manchester City goal, don't bother.
Can I completely interrupt and give a mention to young Joseph O'Brien, because he had a treble last night at Dundalk and he had a 4-timer today at Ferryhouse. He switched from the flat last night to a jumps card today. That is absolutely insane going for a young man. It's nothing to do with this show, but as a sporting achievement, it's very, very high up there.
He's doing a lot of training, obviously. I mean, let's run it back. You know, that's a 12-month-a-year operation.
Is he training them 2 times a week or 5 times a week?
He'd be up at 6:30 in the morning anyway. He'd probably be up a few hours at that stage.
Duff's point though, like I know Rovers were slightly mocked about the football loves us campaign and all that, but young lads have to have a football at home. They have to be kicking it off the wall. They just have to be getting their touch right, and they have to be playing all the time. He's absolutely right in that. And our players probably aren't coached early enough. I think the earlier you get them, and I'm not a football coach, but like 95% of it is probably just getting your touch right early on and being able to control the ball, and that's what'll make you a good player, and playing consistently, as Duffer says.
There's definitely a lot in that I think hopefully we can talk about over the coming months as to whether players should be training 5, 6, 7 times a month, because 7 times a week, because there is, I guess there's another side of that if you're putting too much of a commitment on them too young, you have a drop-off, and it doesn't give them an opportunity to play other sports, which can be very beneficial even for their soccer careers. Doesn't give them a chance for education, for a life outside of football. Yeah. Not that that's what Damien Duff is saying, but what I liked about that was actually, and that's what I would have liked to have seen after Martin O'Neill left the job, this is a rare opportunity you actually have to talk about Irish football from top to bottom, because straight away we're back into the cycle now of the draw tomorrow.
Who do we get?
Who's going to be in the squad?
Exactly, yeah.
Whereas we don't have this greater conversation of, well, what about the underage leagues? We have them from time to time. Why is it only 13s, 15s, 17s? What's happening at 14s and 16s? How important is that?
Yeah, I think I don't know, maybe it's because we're in a bit of an echo chamber though, so I don't know if it's necessarily true, but it does seem to me like there's more of a willingness to have this debate in the last 12 to 18 months, and I think some of the changes that have come in have accelerated the debate, because those changes are very divisive within schoolboy football here, and there's people who've been involved in Irish football for all their life who are aggrieved with what's going on, and then there are people on the opposite side of the equation who are very positive about it, and
both have a point.
This is raging, yeah. Like, I mean,
on both of those, is that something in 10 years' time that it will be decided whether it's a success or a failure, not by participation levels, but by whether or not the senior team is performing at a better level?
Well, it's also how many players are coming through. Like,
and we need to develop some kind of professional structure here, because I think what's accelerated the debate is our changing relationship with England in terms of just not being able to get as many opportunities for players over there, and that's led us to sort of have an introspective, view of well, hang on, where are we going? How are we going to control this now? I know, like Rovers, for example, I know that I think we had Stephen McPhail on our podcast at one point, and I think he was talking about maybe going to Belgium or something, or watching like a video of the amount of like training and these kind of
absolutely overwhelmed by what they were doing.
Yeah, how well drilled they were. But there's an argument here that if you introduce an elite culture too early, there will be a drop-off too, and that would be the view of certain people involved with schoolboy clubs, that if it becomes more cutthroat early, where like players are being dropped from an under-13 National League team, under 15, because naturally, X amount will move up to the next group and X amount will fall off. And
if you're the 12th best player and only 11 are selected, and it doesn't mean you couldn't be one of the best ones.
Where do you go? Later, But at the same time, I mean, it's funny because we went through a sort of a fallow period, and actually now there are some good players coming through again. We mentioned Troy Parrott and Adam Ida and that, who actually are a product of the old way of doing things. Like they've come through sort of traditional sort of schoolboy clubs. So now I felt there was a point where, well, actually, we had a bad couple of years, was like, well, we clearly have to try something different. But I don't think also we can just sort of cut out people who've been there before. But anyway, it comes down to contact hours. A lot of it comes down to money. I mean, that's pretty obvious. You mentioned why.
And where does money come from?
Yeah, exactly. You talk about why there's no 14, 16, 18. I mean, in an ideal world, Rude Doctor has said it, that there would be an age team at every group. But there isn't, because the resources aren't there, and it costs a lot of money for clubs to put out teams. And that is, often it just comes back to these bottom bottom lines again. And I mean, in fairness to Rovers, they have this arrangement with Ashfield College and stuff, you know, for players to get school and football, but that's only for a couple of elite players that they have. It's not like for 25 lads, for 30 lads. So we are at a crossroads here to a degree.
It's important though it's done right as well, because like I went to Galway United 17's match last year. It was played in East United's pitch in the middle of the city because Galway United didn't have a ground, and fair play to East United for giving Galway United the pitch. The pitch was literally, if it were racing, it would have been firm. Right, the pitch was so hard. So you had these elite 17s players playing on a pitch that was no way suitable whatsoever for good football. So if the League of Ireland clubs are to take on the 13s, which they will from next season, it has to be done
There's
properly.
an argument that 13s is too early. That I don't think it is. It's a step too far in terms of making, you know, putting kids in an argument in a position where there's a judgment being made of them at a certain age.
Rovers are doing this in under sevens.
Well, Rovers, I know, I know Shamrock Rovers and other clubs, I'm sure, but they're actively recruiting players of 6, 7, 8 years of age, and they are, and it will be 10 years before there's a judgment on what Rovers are doing. To be fair, you know, like obviously Rovers are mocked a lot because of their struggles at first team level, and that will, in terms of not winning trophies. But it really, and they've put money into this academy, but it really is like 10 years before you can really make a definitive judgment, because they are now there are lads that will come through all the way, whereas a lot of lads in Rovers under 19, 17, some of their better players, Aaron Bulger, Brandon Kavanagh, I mean, they've been plucked from other clubs. You know, so they're not really a product of Rovers as much. I mean, Gavin Bazzuno actually is the one they've sold for $500,000, but you know, it's going to take a while for the definitive judgment to be made in a lot of these changes. But we've the FAI have made a decision. You know, I sometimes think they don't make decisions enough, but they've made a decision with these underage national leagues that they've gone a particular way and alienated or annoyed some other people. But it's too early to judge, really.
Do you not think, Johnny, that separating players as young as 12, 13 is going to have an effect on the clubs that are left behind? That if you're playing for St. Kevin's or Belvedere or Stella Maris, and you see the best 4 players from your team leave to go to one of the League of Ireland clubs, and you're left behind, and if you're, if you're one of the better players but you don't get selected, you're probably good at other sports, that you wouldn't think, well, wait a second, I've missed my chance already. No, I'll just go and play GAA, I'll just go and play rugby.
No, you can be a late developer as well, like, and it's like the clubs.
But is the opportunity going to be there for the late developers?
Yeah, because the schoolboy clubs have also fostered an elite culture as well, too. Of course,
absolutely.
I mean, I mean, to be fair, you know, the schoolboy clubs wouldn't be averse to going down to like Trim or somewhere in the country and taking the 3 best players from a team and leaving the ones behind. So, I mean, there's a dog-eat-dog world that everyone's guilty of, you know, behaviour. It's just changing now, but I mean,
there are links with the League of Ireland.
You need the right coaches working with the best players, though. I mean, that's the key point.
That's the big thing. They have to be properly coached, like, and we can all attest to like the really good coaches that we even had as young lads who like were volunteers for clubs, like, but probably didn't have their badges or whatever. But for these guys, they really do need to be properly coached, and players need to be taught. And Johnny McDonnell, I remember that I've made this point several times. He asked the kids at Belvo how many of them had a football at home, and half of them didn't. And this is at Belvo, like, so you're like, these lads have to, regardless of whether you're living in a 5th floor apartment or you're living in the back arse of East Galway, you need to have a football.
There's a very dysfunctional football system in this country that's a product of a long period of time. There's actually like too many clubs, there's too many leagues. I think there's like 32 leagues in the 26 counties, I think. You know, there's certainly, like, you know, that's a problem, and there's a lot of stuff that's going on at the moment that the debate is getting clouded by people depending what badge they're wearing on their jacket, you know, and there's an element of you know, posturing and rivalries and tensions which go back. I mean, you can't just come in and fix that magically. You can't just make it better. But I think this is part of the debate, that there's competing interests and people looking for their own patch, and you know, there's big factors. But as I said, it's getting the best coaches working with the best players, and what we can't have is a situation where good coaches are alienated by changes that have been made either. So you have to somehow try and meet in the middle here.
It's a huge opportunity though, Nathan, for coaches, the League of Ireland, because if you think there are 20 clubs in the League of Ireland, so there are 13s, 15s, 17s and 19s who need like probably 3 or 4 coaches per team. So that's 20 by 3 by 4. So you've like, that's which is what, 240 coaches straight away. So like that's a huge responsibility. And you see, like Alan Reynolds now would say he's coming through the League of Ireland. He could get the job with Kenny for the under-21s. It's a part-time role, but who knows where that might lead him. And Colin O'Brien and Tom Mohan, their reputation has definitely gone up via the underage with Ireland. So the League of Ireland coaches can come through that. Duffer's reputation just at Rovers 15s.
Well, Colin Healy's something. Yeah. The one thing with the underage leagues, it is giving people, ex-players, a chance to get experience at a national level.
And stay in the game.
And stay in the game, because that's a massive problem here, that we just haven't had enough to offer them. And but I mean, they need to also be able to be paid properly to justify making the commitment to do it. And it costs a lot of money to get a pro licence.
Yeah.
You know, when there's no necessarily guarantee of a job at the end of it.
And also, like, you look at somebody like Go United, and we will come back to all this in the next hour as well, but you look at a team like Go United and you're talking about 3-4 age groups and you want 3 or 4 coaches, and look at the opportunity that's there for them. But Go United, what's their budget for their senior team?
The budget for next year. The budget for next year is basically laughable, right? But that's where we're at. And John Delaney, whatever he's done this week in terms of the Irish team, like, if they don't address the structure of the League of Ireland, where there's essentially no prize money, we're going nowhere. You can't fund professional football with no prize money and no TV money.
Brian Kerr quotes in the papers today again calling for like a revolution and for clubs to break away from the league and from the FEI.
Something Niall Quinn was on the show last week.
So again, you see, this is happening. There's just like, it just feels like there's more of a debate going on now, and we are at a moment where I think stuff is going to happen in the next couple of years, and we sort of hope that we're going to pick the right option, you know. But we are certainly at a time which I think is interesting, and I don't think the debate is necessarily going to go away even if the team starts winning in March. I think people have a bit more awareness of the broader structure, I think.
53106 is the text number. If you are involved in Irish football at any level, do get in touch, give us your thoughts on where we're going, or you can leave a comment on any of our social channels as well. The halftime whistle's going and gone around the grounds in the Premier League. Let's see what's happening. First, we'll go to Selhurst Park. Palace against Burnley. Andrew Cheal.
Crystal Palace 1, Burnley 0. James McArthur credited with the goal. It was an in-swinging low cross from way out on the touchline. Mayer stuck out a boot. The keeper was distracted and the ball dribbled into the back of the net off the far post. Mayer's also forced an excellent one-handed save from Joe Hart, and Kouyaté was inches from converting Zaha's low cross. It took Burnley half an hour to get going, but they are not looking a threat at all. It's Palace 1, Burnley 0.
Next up to the John Smith Stadium, Huddersfield against Brighton. Joe Townsend.
Half-time between Huddersfield and Brighton have scored on the stroke of the interval. It's Huddersfield 1, Brighton 1. Shane Duffy heading home. A beautiful cross from Solly March, a quickly taken short corner. He curled the ball in towards the penalty spot, and Duffy rose highest to head home powerfully into the top corner. It's going to be a real battle for Huddersfield in the second half, because Steve Mounier was sent off for a studs-up challenge on the half hour. They had taken the lead inside 60 seconds. A really good header from Matthias Jorgensen after a botched clearance from Bruno is what gave them the lead, but we're in for an interesting second half. A really boiling atmosphere here at the John Smith Stadium. It's Huddersfield 1, Brighton 1.
Third Premier League goal of the season for Shane Duffy, which is more than any Irish player scored in all of last season.
He is a player that Mick McCarthy is definitely going to build the team around. Like we will
up front.
Yeah. Well, you remember Gary Doherty.
He's a better Gary Doherty.
If we're going to say that Rice isn't going to make if he's not going to
rule it out,
we should have a debate about that.
Yeah, we should. Well, if Rice isn't coming into that, like, Duffy is going to become a massive player, and McCarthy, being an ex-centre back himself, will get the best out of him. I genuinely believe that. I think Duffy's a player that we haven't seen the best of for Ireland.
Next to the King Power Stadium, Leicester against Watford. Derek Clark.
Half-time, Leicester 2, Watford 0. The Foxes in command at the break after 2 first-half goals, the first of which came on 12 minutes. A Jamie Vardy penalty after he was upended by Ben Foster. And then on 23 minutes, a thing of beauty, James Maddison with the goal. Terrific sweeping move. James Vardy playing out wide to Mark Albright, and he crossed it first time to Maddison, who took a touch, then volleyed past Ben Foster. Half-time here, Leicester 2, Watford 0.
So, an interesting afternoon at the Etihad Stadium. Manchester City a chance to go 5 points clear at the top for 24 hours at least. They're at home against Bournemouth, but for once they haven't had it all their own way. Darren Stanich.
Man City 1, Bournemouth 1. City pegged back right at the end of the first half, and Eddie Howe will be delighted. City led on 15 minutes. Bernardo Silva first to react, firing home from a Begovic parry after Sane's shot. And in terms of quality chances, not many from the home side. Bournemouth grew into the game. Well worked caller early on. Wilson shot wide. Edison parry King's cross away. But then right at the end of the first half, great pressure from Bournemouth. Cross from Simon Francis. Callum Wilson headed home. City 1, Bournemouth 1 at the break.
So maybe a glimmer of hope for the chasing pack there, but still 45 minutes to go at the Etihad, as there is at the St James's Park, where it's Newcastle against West Ham. Stephen Goldsmith.
Newcastle 0, West Ham 1. Just the one goal separates two lively sides here. Javier Hernandez with it, arriving at the back post to stab home from an excellent ball into the box. The wet conditions have allowed for a good game of football, to be fair to both sides. Every time an attack breaks down, the other look to counter quickly, zipping it across the wet surface. It should have brought more goals. Jose Perez guilty for the home side of some very poor finishing. Half-time, Newcastle 0, West Ham 1.
So that's you up to date with all the halftime scores in the Premier League. The late game, 5:30 kickoff, is Southampton against Manchester United. And a reminder that we full live and exclusive national radio commentary of both the North London derby and the Merseyside derby on tomorrow's Off the Ball.
And if you wait for the second half, you can find out, I know I was mocked about Samcro, but I have a very, very strong football fancy. Really strong.
Up next.
Join that conversation on Facebook and Twitter.
At Volvo, we believe in design that simplifies your life. That's why we created the Volvo XC40 Irish Car of the Year 2019. Our small SUV that's big on innovation. For city life, for every day. The new Volvo XC40 T3 Petrol from €36,850. Test drive the Irish Car of the Year at your local Volvo dealer today. Terms and conditions apply. Excludes delivery and related charges.
When does a quick chat become a great conversation? When you light the fire. Whatever you're doing, make the moment even warmer with the welcoming aroma of Bord na Móna peat briquettes.
I'm 3 months gone, but I haven't told the boss yet. I'm afraid I could lose my job.
You know they have to give you maternity leave. When I had my baby, I got 6 months off and a maternity benefit payment.
Oh, I didn't think I'd be entitled to anything.
You should drop into your local Citizens Information Centre. They'll tell you everything you need to know about maternity benefits.
Looking for information on your rights and entitlements? Visit citizensinformation.ie. Call 0761 07 4000 or drop into your local Citizens Information Centre. Call costs depend on operator bundles funded and supported by the Citizens Information Board.
Do you remember legends like Denoli and Istabrack winning the Hatton's Grace? There are 3 Grade 1 races on one stunning Sunday afternoon. Can you keep up with the pace? It's now 10 years since Hurricane Fly won the Royal Bond. Of Willie Mullins Superstar Hurdler, we were very fond. The Drinmore can produce future Cheltenham Gold Cup winners, you know. Sure didn't Don Cossack deliver 5 years ago? But who will be the ones to ensure new memories are made? Perhaps it will be a magical mare who goes by the name Apple's Jade. The Bar 1 Winter Racing Festival at Fairyhouse, Saturday, December 1st and Sunday, December 2nd. Visit fairyhouse.ie.
Make Christmas for everyone at Dunnes Stores with better value of just €4 for your favourite festive treats, including selected Cadbury Milk Tray, McVitie's Family Circle and Celebrations and Quality Street large pouches. Or maybe you fancy our Pringles 200-gram range at half price, or 24 500ml cans of Carlsberg and Budweiser for just €20. Plus you save even more with our €10 off every €50 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores, always better value. See online for terms and conditions. Minimum spend required. Please drink responsibly.
Electric Picnic 2019, the Music and Arts Festival. Stradbally Hall, County Laois, August 30th to September 1st. Subject to licence. A beautiful 600-acre estate of rolling hills, green landscapes, forests of mystery, and home to Ireland's music soul. With incredible music, art, theatre, comedy, food, and holistic health. It's the most delightfully diverse lineup of the year. Electric Picnic. Tickets on sale this Monday at 9 a.m. See electricpicnic.ie.
Merry Christmas, little one. What would you like this year?
I'd really like to surprise my mummy and daddy with a Farnham estate, golf and spavers or gift cards.
Oh, really?
She could have a posh dinner with my daddy and relax in the spa while he plays golf. So please, Santa, can you help?
Oh, of course I can. I'll log on and book now at farnhamestate.ie. Merry Christmas!
Black Friday may be over, but Black Friday prices continue at Curry's PC World Black Tag event, and nobody beats our prices. Fact. Check out our biggest ever Black Tag event with our lowest ever prices, like laptops from only $129 and Google Home Minis just €35, or the thinnest ever HP Pavilion with 8th Gen Intel processor from just $479. Sorry, other stores, these are the prices you're gonna have to match. Good luck. At Curry's PC World Black Tag event, we help you get it right. Ends Tuesday.
This Christmas at Reed's. Personalise your gifts with your favourite photos at Reed's Design and Print. We have fantastic offers at prices you can afford on mugs, calendars, cards, iPhone covers, canvases and lots more. Check us out today at reeds.ie. If you don't have time to visit our branches at Setanta Centre, Nassau Street, Sandyford, Bray and now Stillorgan, you can order online and avail of our free design service. So log on at reeds.ie and see what Reeds can do for you this Christmas.
Here's an offer from Fiat, done in a way that gets the pesky lawyers off our backs. The Fiat Tipo and the Fiat 191 range now come with 3 years free servicing with a really low 3 blank. Blank's the thing that'd mean you'd have to listen to all those legal T's and C's the lawyers love. But we didn't say it. So bye-bye lawyers. Hello Fiat 191 range cracking offer. Test drive the Fiat 191 range at your local dealer. T's and C's apply, obviously. Visit fiat.ie.
On 106 to 108 FM and at newstalk.com. This is News Talk.
Good afternoon, I'm Tina Gates. Hundreds of people have attended the funeral of Stephen Marin in Castleblaney today. Parish priest Canon Shane Mulcahy spoke of the shock and sadness in the community after the 47-year-old father of two died when a car crashed into his parked Skoda in the town on Tuesday night. The Taoiseach and the President have offered their deepest sympathy to the people of the United States on the death of former President George Bush Sr. The 41st US President flew for the Navy before entering politics and years later took up skydiving for fun, something that got a mention when Barack Obama awarded him a Medal of Freedom.
Just to cap it off, well in the 80s, he decides to jump out of airplanes. Because, as he explains, it feels good.
Protests in Paris have turned violent, with riot police using tear gas, stun grenades and water cannon. More than 100 people have been arrested in protests against rising taxes. Sky's Ian Woods is there.
When you get a mouthful of the tear gas, it is deeply, deeply unpleasant and causes you to retch and your eyes to water. So how so many protesters are putting up with it for so long, I'm not altogether clear.
Gardaí in Cork are appealing for witnesses after a crash between a motorcyclist and a car. The accident happened yesterday evening at around 5 o'clock on Middle Glanmire Road. A motorcyclist in his 40s was taken to Cork University Hospital, where his injuries are described as serious but not life-threatening. And 100,000 people who have jobs are living in poverty. St Vincent de Paul's Kieran Stafford says the working poor are struggling to pay rent and other everyday bills.
The cost of everything has gone up. People are really struggling, middle income earners, to pay mortgage or rent, pay for their travel costs to get to work.
That's it for now. Remember, all news updates are on our website. That's newstalk.com.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Des Kelly Interiors. Delivering your new bed, mattress or furniture in time for Christmas. DesKelly.ie.
A few bright or short sunny spells this afternoon, but cloudy and misty generally, with highest temperatures 7 to 12 degrees. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Welcome back to Saturday's Off the Ball. Nathan, Dan and Johnny in studio as always. The big story in the Premier League is that Manchester City might be about to drop points for just the third time this season. It is 1-1 in their game against Bournemouth. A much changed Manchester City left Sergio Aguero out of the squad completely. Dropped the two fullbacks, brought in Danilo and Zinchenko, David Silva on the bench as well. But you would imagine there's an onslaught coming.
Yeah.
But Bournemouth, who've had a brilliant start to the season, maybe they can take something off Manchester City there, who could go 5 points clear at the top ahead of Liverpool playing Everton tomorrow. Elsewhere, it's Crystal Palace 1, Burnley 0. It's Huddersfield 1, Brighton 1. Leicester 2-0 up against Watford, and Newcastle 1-0 down at home against West Ham United. We'll bring you the team news from Southampton against Manchester United as soon as that comes in. Just a reminder as well that OTBAM are broadcasting live from Kildare Village next Monday, December 3rd, to celebrate their men's offering in the village this Christmas.
I'll be there.
It's going to be a really good show, though. We'll be live across all social channels this Monday from 7:45 a.m. from the Under Armour store. The broadcast brought to you with thanks to Kildare Village, where there's something extraordinary every day.
I have no...
Particularly on Monday, I
Are you just going shopping or are you on the show?
I'm both. I've no problem thanking Kildare Village. Sue from inside, she was asking me for the measurements of my suit size and my pants size and everything. I thought she was measuring me for a casket, but turns out I might be getting a bit of clobber from Kildare Village.
Why didn't I get invited down?
Well, it's very early on Monday morning, like the Father Ted gag, very early in the morning. It's very early in the Monday morning, so you have to get up, who knows what's happened over the weekend.
How are you getting there? You don't even...
I'm going with the grace Tommy Rooney somehow, I think.
He's going to go to the Curragh or somewhere, Ferry House tomorrow and just drift.
I'm at Ferry House tomorrow, unbelievable racing.
Just drift
3
to
grade
Kildare
ones.
Village.
He's a horse runner in Ferry House tomorrow.
Have you? What's the horse called?
Undressed.
Fittingly, in the context of he's getting dressed on Monday, undressed tomorrow.
So should we be backing Undressed?
Don't know.
Oh my God!
You should be definitely investing in Man United to beat Southampton.
Well, that's not the question I asked there.
And then maybe
own this horse. You come in here every Friday giving tips on horse racing, and now there's
you give me grief over last week. You give me grief over last week. I mean,
what's going on, Johnny?
There's absolutely no comparison to blatantly lying live on air. I'm telling you the truth here. Somewhat.
I think he is actually telling the truth.
Okay. But anyway, if you're into the racing, there's a goal.
Raheem Sterling has just scored for Manchester City 10 minutes into the second half, so City leading Bournemouth by 2-1. In the rugby, by the way, in the Pro 14, Connacht Cheetahs 15-10 at half time. Ulster 12-10 down into the second half at their game in Cardiff. We're getting a lot of texts and tweets in, as you'd imagine, about coaching. We have one in from Mark O'Sullivan, who is a UEFA A coach. Says we have to start coaching kids much younger, in quotation marks. Lads, we have to stop selecting kids at 7 and 8 under thinking we can predict the future and assuming that the best can only get better with the best. And he has a blog up there that we might share as well for people to read. And I would have to say, I would agree with that. I was at a under 7s blitz this morning, soccer blitz.
One of your kids playing?
He was playing. Yes, they lost the first game 6-1, which was...
Are you one of these parents it's all right, son, I thought you did great?
Yes.
Or are you one of them?
No, I am.
You are?
Absolutely, I am.
My father used to, he was uber critical of me. And then I said to him, Daddy, you're always slagging me off on the sideline. You don't give me enough, encouragement. And he literally just flipped like that. He completely changed, and thereafter
into a deep psychological.
But
trail of Johnny.
Anyway,
Johnny Ward's life.
You were making a point, Nathan. You were making a point. You were at an under 7s blitz, and
there were some players on every team that were far better than others, and at that level, actually,
bigger or better.
Bigger generally tended to be better, but in the first game that they lost 6-1, the better player, I'd say, scored 40 goals and set up the other 2. He was so far ahead of everybody else that actually it was just the difference. But
has he been signed up by Lockharps or Cloonfad?
Well, this was in Dublin, so I doubt he's going to travel to the Roscommon and school. So there's no question that player can go on and should be encouraged. But that doesn't mean that the smaller guys at 6 and 7 over the next 4 years...
Yeah, there's every chance
it's tough. But at 6 and 7, how much of it for them is still the dream that I could play for Ireland or I could play in the Premier League? That if suddenly you're breaking it down and go, I'm not in the Shamrock Rovers Academy at 7, I probably have no chance.
Yeah, I think we'll see what happens if you have the equivalent tournament in Roscommon or somewhere and there's an outstanding 6-7-year-old there, but the argument becomes, actually, is he going to be held back by being here? Should he not be picked up by the best club? I know that basically does still happen. That is what happens. But no, I think Mark, obviously, I think he's based in Sweden, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's very well aware of how to do things. And I don't know if there's one correct way of doing things that would suit every kid. There's different personalities and characters that probably would benefit from being brought into something to give them that discipline and structure at an early age, and then there's others who would find that very stifling, And
parenting is very important at that age as well.
It's a difficult, tricky debate,
Well, that's, I guess, where, and it'd be good to talk to Damien Duff at some stage a bit deeper about his thoughts on that, as to what age he feels you should start training at 5 or 6 days a week.
I think Damien Duff said, I'm not misquoting him, or I still remember a recent debate where he actually feels that the real problem is more so at the sort of 10 to 12, 10 to 13 is where actually they think that the Irish kid, the 6, 7, 8, they're not any less gifted than kids around Europe. It's that it's those early steps, and that's why the under-13 league is a pretty significant one because of the age group that it kicks in at. And
because you'll have national school kids like essentially playing. And the under-13 and under-13 league. Like.
Yeah, and also, I mean, things are obviously. We also have an issue here, and I'm sure you sort of touched on it as well, that with everything basically switching to the summer schedule, I mean, you're going to have an overlap with GAA that we've not quite had to that extent before. In certain parts of the country it has been, but now that's going to be everywhere. And in which environment is it more enjoyable for the kid? And if he feels like he's been rejected from one sport very early, they're very likely to sort of drift the other way. So there's a balancing act here. But at the same time, we do need to professionalise what we're doing a bit more at those age groups. And training twice a week isn't enough.
Absolutely.
That isn't enough.
Better coaching at local level. Try getting your child to Rovers Academy for 6:30 and then to secondary school, travelling to Finn Harps, etc. for a game. The idea is great. The practicality is ridiculous. Thanks. Keep up the debate, says Paul. I guess on the travelling to Rovers for 6:30, in an ideal scenario in Dublin with all the League of Ireland clubs there are, you would travel to your closest club, which would all have a similar setup.
They also regionalise the underage leagues to try to offset that. But if you're at Rovers are going to become massive in the next 10 years. I've no doubt whatsoever with the infrastructure they have in Roundstone and with the coaches that they're bringing through. Gavin Bazuna will be the tip of the iceberg.
They need to make a pay though as well. I mean, this is the thing.
But they are making a pay. Yeah, do you know what I mean? I think they will. Like they've a lot of players already.
Making a pay.
Well, like Bazuna was sold for what? 400,000 or 500,000.
Well, it's interesting. I know, like John O'Connor, who we would know is basically he's a League of Ireland fan, but he used to work for Bowes, I think. But he does like financial account study and stuff. And I think he's done a blog on each club's finances based on their accounts that they've registered. And I think Rovers, they've even split their company into like. There's the Rovers one and then there's the Rovers Academy as a separate thing. So they're obviously, I mean, there's been a commitment, there's been an investment into that. But I think also over a period of time, they need this to start generating something, because the one thing that it is that Rovers are trying to tackle and the League of Ireland clubs are trying to tackle is the issue, which it doesn't reflect well on some of the schoolboy clubs. It's that we let players go to England for next to nothing. Don't even seek the compensation that you're entitled to because you're deemed to be getting in that kid's way. You know, you're stopping that kid's dream. And we have a situation where championship clubs in England, because there's one thing sending players to the top Premier League clubs. I don't think anyone really has any problem with that because they're going to get like fantastic, opportunities there, and it's very hard to say no, we should stay home. But we've actually seen in recent years, Irish lads leave to clubs that are still better than what we have here, but they're not exactly like amazing academies, and in some cases they're almost there filling up the numbers, and like just derisory offers being made, like 500 quid, a grand, $2,000, and there's no way. It's a completely dysfunctional system. Again, to use the word again, if you can produce players through a certain way and then just let them go for, as you said, the set of footballs or for nothing like that, then how does that feed back into the game here? I know you're hoping that someone becomes the star and you get a deal that's based on, triggering sort of clauses and stuff, but if they don't see the value in paying out for you in the first place, you can see why so many are going to come back. That's not a healthy. You talk about at 7 or 8 and what's right and wrong and what's the right way to treat people, but also a system that churns out so many people off to England and come home with nothing. That's not the right system either. So
we have to develop a league in this country.
That is one of the arguments for the League of Ireland clubs. That in theory, they should be more firm when it comes to looking for money. That doesn't still, there's lads leaving League of Ireland clubs now that for going for nothing as well. So I'm not saying that's a cultural shift, but Rovers certainly, they seem to be more aggressive in terms of looking for cash.
Why can't we just copy the Belgium or Spain model in producing players? Was it a fluke when we were producing players in the 90s and early 2000s?
Yeah, yes. I don't know if it was a fluke. Do you think it was a fluke?
Probably a good generation, but it's also just the fact that the Premier League has gotten so globalised that it's not probably that we've regressed an awful lot. It's just that other, particularly in England, it's just the clubs are just getting a lot better.
Yeah, I suppose Robbie Keane retired during the week, and I know it's very topical that Robbie's first game, is that 2 goals for Wolves against Norwich, I think it was, the first day of the championship season, and he was 17, I think. It's hard to imagine.
As Troy Parrott did it.
Troy Parrott is the one that's interesting. Could he play senior football at that young an age? But it almost seems like there's so many obstacles now. It seems implausible that someone would do that. I know now, in fairness, to contradict myself, there was Adam O'Reilly at Preston was on the bench for a championship game last year. He was 16. So there are still places where it can happen. But would that Keane Duff done O'Shea, Liam Miller, all that group. If a similar crop came through today, how long would it take for them all to play first team football? I guess
we have a responsibility as well. The national team has responsibility now in getting football's place back in the hearts of the nation, because it's rapidly losing out to rugby at the moment, like without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, we had this debate last week that. Well, we had it on the show though, but 2 good results.
It will change.
Mick McCarthy's first 2 games, and suddenly everything is rosy again.
But Kenny doesn't say stuff without a reason, and the fact that he said we've had 10 years of disassociation with the international team because of the way we've played is very, very. That's a very important point, and that's
it is.
That's a lost generation. Like it's funny. Like my year of sport in the League of Ireland. Back in the day, you get so much like slating of and slagging of the League of Ireland. Now it's the international team. So like the amount of mates would say, God, you couldn't watch that. You just couldn't watch the international team. And they don't actually give out about the League of Ireland anymore. And there is a lost generation there because of the standard of
Yeah, but I still think they're energised enough to comment about it. As you said, like even if you talk about the place and the affections, it actually frustrates and annoys people. Like I speak to people who are very passionately they've stopped going, but they care enough to express that view. So if things turned like we did, and Stephen Kenny did make the point that when he knew he wanted the job was I think he always wanted the job. There's an interview going around from in 2000 at Longford where he wanted to
How could you not want the job?
Yeah, but when he really got this sense that he really desperately wanted the job was going to the Ireland-Denmark game, the 5-1, and the mood, he spoke about the mood around,
Well, I was sitting right beside him at that Ireland-Denmark game for the entire thing, so I would apologise.
Well, I mean,
some very vocal, angry supporters beside us.
He still wanted it after that, but before the game, that was a sellout crowd, and the buzz and the activity, the hum, like that's 12 months ago. That's what 15 months ago.
Oh, so he was saying more. It was like the atmosphere rather than how bad we'd become.
Yeah, exactly. So and it was just
that
like
first 20 minutes.
It was like this is what the national team can be, and that's not that long ago in the rear view mirror here. So if things start to turn, you will have that mood again pretty quickly.
Yeah. A lot of text coming in on this. England opened St George's Park in 2012 with the hope of a proper vision. Now all their teams have an identity and style of play, culminating in winning multiple underage tournaments. England are now genuine contenders for future senior championships, with a lot of those youngsters making up the first team. Hard to disagree.
Yeah, no, what they're doing is really good, and I mean that also has implications for Ireland as well, because they've also got their act together at FA in terms of their recruitment. In terms, and also they're
just on to St George's Park. For anyone who hasn't been there, like it's in the back arse of Beyond. It's about an hour north.
I've never been actually. I know you were there. Yeah.
The Irish rugby team were based there in 2015 at the World Cup, so I spent quite a bit of time there. Like there's not a huge amount
going on
in Burton, I can assure you. But they put it there because it's in the centre of the country. There was huge pressure on the FA to have it in London, understandably so, but they put it in the centre of the country. They drag all their teams there, and at first I think they were all, remember there was all the talk about putting in a golf course so that they have something to do. The players were a little bit bored. But the generation that are there now have grown up with going to St George's Park, with getting into a rhythm of a week that doesn't involve playing golf and doesn't involve going into London and going to nightclubs after a match. And that's just their normal now. And it sort of feels like we need something like that. Do we have that?
Well,
is that
Abbottstown, I mean, there is facilities at Abbottstown, and they are, there's a number of pitches, and there's been various discussions at various times about, should there be more activity there, like emerging talent programs, should they be getting together more, and I think there is stuff going on there. I think that they do, Johnny mentioned the underage coaches earlier that are doing, seem to be doing a very good job, the likes of Colin O'Brien and Tom Mowen and stuff. But there comes a point where the best players aren't in the country anymore. So there's only so much you can do, insofar as sort of getting gatherings and doing extra stuff. But I think the vision probably would be that Abbottstown would become something like that. But I mean, again, it can't just be the only place in the country. I mean, you mentioned St George's Park, but also you'll speak to people about going to Brighton and going to various clubs, which, I mean, Brighton is the one that keeps coming up, that the facilities are just meant to be extraordinary. And that's why you mentioned Rovers.
Burnley as well.
Rovers are doing their own thing. And I know there's a big talk about Glanmire in Cork, which is one of these FAI's go-to projects at the moment, to have this, to make that sort of a hotbed in Munster and to cover sort of the Cork region. So we need, we can't just be, we can't all be Dublin-centric.
There's been another goal in the game between Newcastle and West Ham. Let's go to St James's Park. Stephen Goldsmith.
Newcastle 0, West Ham United 2, and Hernandez has his and his side's second of the game. It was a quick counter-attack by the away side after Newcastle were enjoying a spell of possession, but once Hernandez was played into the penalty area and one-on-one with Dubravka, he made no mistake. He smashed it past the keeper with his right foot. It's Newcastle 0, West Ham 2.
Manchester City still 2-1 up at home against Bournemouth. It's Leicester 2, Watford 0, 1-1 between Huddersfield and Brighton. Palace 1-0 up against Burnley. And as we just heard, Newcastle 2-0 down at home against West Ham. Southampton Manchester United gets underway at 5:30. This is generating a big response, as you can imagine.
It's good that people are energised by that, though, because, like, you know, it's the future of the game is at stake in this country. Like.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one because this has sort of come up over the last while, is the endless comparisons between soccer and rugby. It needs to be rooted in schools. Look at schools, rugby and the professional game. Private schools with money, yes, but St Michael's, one of the more professional setups, is churning our professionals into Leinster and Ireland, train 5 days a week, twice a day, every day, and a match at the weekends. This is where the comparison, I think, falls down, and where this feeling of what Irish football and the FAI can do to improve soccer is to look at the rugby model. That isn't sustainable for Irish football.
No.
There isn't. So much of the good stuff that happens in Irish rugby is from the Leinster Academy, which is churning out players because of the education they're getting at private schools. Mm-hmm. That's never going to be there for soccer.
We're not going to have 4 clubs either.
No, we're not. And also, those clubs are heavily, heavily reliant on what the Irish international senior team does. That is the money, that is the revenue driver for Irish rugby. It's the exact same with soccer, but all they have to do is supply 4 teams, and they have the added advantage of players constantly coming through a private school system, whereas the FAI are going to have to fund everything themselves.
Yeah, now there's control, you know, and there's an element of control there. Now, Aidan O'Hara wrote a piece in The Independent today, actually pretty much on this topic, and how it sort of, I think he drew the comparison between Noe Baba and James Ryan, who sort of a time, I think it was 2012 or so, would have been both the best 16-year-olds in their respective sport, you know, and how, as you mentioned, there was an element with James Ryan path was very defined, and it's clear, and also it touches education as well as sport, you know, and they're tied in together, whereas, as I mentioned, the 16-year-old footballer sort of heads off into the abyss, really, you know, and there's no...
Well, James Ryan, I don't want to say he's had a comfortable existence and has clearly turned himself into one of the best players in the world in a very short period of time, but he's been able to stay to a certain extent in his comfort zone in Dublin with his friends, with the same players he's grown up with. That's the whole way through. Noe Baba left Castlebar at 16 to move to London to go to Fulham.
He played 9 games. I think Aidan has them. Just pull up the piece here. In 5.5 years in England before he came back to Waterford last summer, 9 league games, which actually came from Macclesfield in the conference.
If you talk to the Irish-based lads now who spend time in England, like time and time again, they just mention it was tough. It wasn't. A lot of it involved being a sense of alienation, boredom, and I was actually making this point about Owen Garvin recently. Owen Garvin was a player who was really promising as an underage player. Probably didn't really have the career he should have had. But I think Owen Garvin, his technical qualities were probably not really suited to playing in England because of the style of football over there that he would have had to embrace. And I think if Owen Garvin had been born in a country that was beside somewhere like Belgium or Holland, he'd have had a better career.
Yeah, well, I don't know enough about the rugby system really, and I don't know if rugby fans there can, like, I mean, Owen Garvin, for example, you mentioned, like, didn't play basically for like last 6 months or so, hasn't been playing. Like, I don't know, maybe there's loads of rugby examples of like promising whiz kids who were out of the sport completely at 27, 28, maybe. But it seems to me like, you know, the attrition rate of like really top footballers who are the best in the country at 16, some of them aren't playing the sport within a decade. Like, that's
a lot of them.
I mean, it's remarkable, and maybe there's that drop off in other codes that I'm not aware of. But it seems to me that like there's a pathway that's controlled here. But it's not a realistic comparison for the reasons that we mentioned, because, I mean, you know, professional football has existed in most other countries in Europe for, you know, 100+ years, and we're still trying to figure out, can we do a version of it, you know, and that's why we're so far behind in terms of playing catch up.
Yeah, the more you look at it, the more miraculous it is, the players who do actually succeed in soccer, from being the best player in their league or their club at 15, 16, and can somehow transfer that to a Premier League or a Championship club, because they're just a complete fish out of water.
It just takes an extraordinary range of ability and characteristics. Like someone like Robbie Brady, who now we will like sit here and talk about Robbie Brady and Jeff Hendrick because they haven't been the same since 2016. They haven't hit the levels. But you step back from it and say what they've achieved in their career, because they did it. They went over as kids. They played in the same team together, which is almost remarkable, all the way up at St Kevin's. Like what sort of an achievement that is for the two of them to make it all the way and to still be Premier League players. I mean, they are the elite of the elite of the elite to be able to do that. And it's not
That's the Glenn Whelan argument.
Yeah.
Glenn Whelan is one of our greatest sports people of the last 10 years, if you were to break it down into how hard it was for him to get to where he got to.
Yeah.
Yet was reduced to being a laughingstock.
Yeah. And there's also no perfect science as well, because I'd say when Seamus Coleman was 16, I'd say if you drew a list at that time of maybe the top 100 players in the country, he mightn't have been on it. You know, like I think he was. I think Seamus Coleman didn't play underage football for Ireland until under 21 level, where he actually came in and sort of wowed people. So there will always be those stories, and that is the argument in some ways against going elite too early. Is that, you know, you're in danger of creating an environment where these people get disillusioned because the rejection is like earlier and sharper.
If you're going back to coaching as well, like the influence Paul Cook would have had on Seamus Coleman's career at a pivotal stage would have been absolutely huge, and that's now borne out by the Cookies success story in England, where he's had a really remarkable career so far. And the coaching is so important, and I think what's interesting is one thing we haven't said at all is what this means for the League of Ireland is that I don't see Dundalk's stranglehold as being quite as assured now as it was a week ago. I don't know what you think. I really
don't think so, no.
Because that job, whoever gets the Dundalk job, and nobody's really talked about it because it's been all about Ireland this, Ireland that, but the League of Ireland now, I think Shamrock Rovers, and maybe particularly Shamrock Rovers, will be looking at this and saying, we have a chance now of actually closing the gap and possibly challenging next season. There's no guarantee whoever replaces Kenny will have. The likelihood is he will do less well.
Get any text there, Dan, and you'd like to tell us?
Yeah, every time he looks at his phone now, I'm like, was he getting like
No, I was
just come up with some spoof about an offside trap.
No, I was refreshing my memory on Aidan's piece today on the topic we were talking about. But
who's been linked with the Dundalk job?
I think I've been writing about it this week now. I've been off for the last couple of days, so I haven't sort of followed up. But I'm not sure if the plan has changed. That really, I mean, they're looking for continuity. They're not going to bring in this figure from. I mean, there's you hear all people. I'm sure they're getting phone calls and besieged by, because it's an attractive job because everyone knows that they've got money, right? So they're gonna, if they wanted to go that way, I'm sure they could attract a certain caliber. But I think their view would be that Kenny wasn't just a one-man show, or they're trying to, I mean, that's their hope, that he wasn't a one-man show. We'll see. And they're going to have continuity with the backroom staff. The problem is that like Vinnie Perth would be the assistant and the natural successor, but he doesn't have the pro licence, so they need to. It's funny, we spoke earlier about coaching badges and so on. There's actually it's very expensive to do a pro licence here, and there's a lot of people.
About 8 or 10 grand.
Well, we have a couple of texts in on that, on the disparity in the cost between the FAI and the IFA in doing.
A lot of people do it up the north because it's also, I don't think there's a long wait.
8 grand maybe, is it, or something?
Yeah, it costs about that.
And it's an 18-month process, and it's great if you have a club paying for you to do it. But if you're out of work, in a league that doesn't generate huge cash, to pay 8 grand, like to do something, okay, it's an investment in yourself, but it's still there will be people going through it that their clubs will be giving them support because they're affiliated with them. But for the solo operator who's hasn't been earning big money at any stage in his career, it's a big commitment to do it. So, but Dundalk they're going to try and keep, they always complimented their dressing. There's always been a compliment about their dressing room, the strength of character. So I don't think they're going to unsettle it. They're going to try and keep it going. But it is a slight downer because I think, Kenny in Europe next year had the potential to be fascinating because they're seeded and they've got to a position where they could have done very well, but who knows?
Check out Dan's Twitter account about 6:10. He'll have the new Dundalk manager live for you then. John Smith Stadium, Huddersfield against Brighton. Joe Townsend.
Huddersfield 1, Brighton 2. Brighton's patient build-up has paid off. A lovely cross again from the right-hand side, again from Solly March, curled in, this time towards the near post, and on his Premier League debut, Florin Adone headed in to give Brighton a 2-1 lead. It's Huddersfield 1, Brighton 2.
That Steve Mounier red card on half an hour really costing Huddersfield. They were leading by a Matthias Jorgensen goal to 0, but Shane Duffy and Florin Andone have turned it round for Brighton, who are having a decent run of it at the start of the season. That have moved them up to 11th. If it says that it is not the same for Burnley at all. We're in the relegation right now and are 1-0 down away from home against Crystal Palace. That it would be a really poor result for Burnley yet again. And Manchester City have just scored a third. Was it Gundian who finished that one off and putting it up down the left-hand side?
I presume that's Silva.
Yeah, it was
pass.
Silva.
Like, that's just that quality. Like, he's put this
hold it back, Gundian.
A slide rule pass that kind of only Silva would do, and just the quality he has.
Silva's probably the hipster's choice of the this era, the last 10 years.
Well, I was wondering on that.
Who's the Riquelme, or that sort of slightly not quite perceived as one of the best three in the world, but the one just below.
Christian Eriksen?
Like, Silva to me has probably been the best player in the Premier League in the last 10 years.
Well, I do wonder on that when we talk about greatest Premier League teams of all time. We're definitely struck down with a fever of nostalgia, because is there any player from the last 10 years who would get into it? You still, everyone's still set in stone. Their midfield is Keane and Vieira.
Well, the Premier League, like the post-92
If you were to do your
and
post-92,
Gerrard and Lampard will be sort of in the mix.
Whereas actually, like David Silva,
it's
got to be in that conversation.
De Bruyne as well, I think.
De Bruyne, without a shadow of a doubt.
To me, actually, De Bruyne is probably the best player in the Premier League at the moment. But he's obviously had an interrupted season this year. But Silva, in terms of his consistent body of work, across a period of time, if you're talking about the best Premier League imports, overseas, I think he's got to be up there, but he'll never get the same mention as a Cantona or a Bergkamp or something.
Without putting too much weight on a young lad's shoulders. There's one lad in the League of Ireland who does remind me of David Silva, Brandon Kavanagh for Shamrock Rovers. And if you want to watch one player to follow in the League of Ireland, watch him. He's an amazing left foot. The ball is literally glued to his feet.
He's more of a Duffer lookalike, though, isn't he?
What in terms of the way he plays?
Yeah. No, he's got.
Which is he? Is he Duffer or is he Silva?
He's more Silva. He's literally like Duffer. At least would sometimes half use his right foot. Right, Brandon Kavanagh does not use his right foot. His left foot is so good. He just does everything with it. And he's a bit like Silva in that regard. But I think he's a kid that could go a long, long way. And he's everything that's good about the League of Ireland at the moment.
There's been another goal at Selhurst Park. Palace against Burnley. Andrew Cheal.
Crystal Palace 2, Burnley 0. That surely is game over. And what a fabulous goal to settle it. Andros Townsend received the ball on the right-hand touchline, cut inside onto his left foot, and from about the corner of the penalty area, absolutely arrowed it into the top far corner. Joe Hart, flailing into thin air, had absolutely no chance. Wonderful goal by Andros Townsend. Makes it Crystal Palace 2, Burnley 0.
So the latest scores from the Premier League. Palace 2, Burnley 0. It's Huddersfield 1, Brighton 2. Leicester 2-0 up at home against Watford. Manchester City going to go 5 points clear at the top. They lead Bournemouth by 3-1. And Newcastle 2-0 down at home against West Ham. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll bring you some very interesting
big news coming from St. Mary's.
It's a teaser.
Big news.
It's a teaser for Southampton against Manchester United. Next Friday night, Johnny, I'm going to be down in Cork. We're going to be at Dolphin Rugby Club. That's Irish Independent Park for the latest Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club.
Are you just addressing me because I'm part of the tour on Monday morning?
I am. I'm just saying if you want to come down, we'll be more than happy to have you. We'll
Festival
be previewing
crew.
Munster's Heineken Champions Cup clash with Cast that weekend in the company of some Dolphin and Munster legends. If you want to get there as well, get on to offtheball.com/events. It's the latest Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club. What's so funny? Dolphin legends.
I actually.
You were trying to think of something funny to say.
I actually can't. Actually, I can't.
People can't really see, but
I'm not going to name. Name who just messaged me there, but he said.
The worst radio is
he said
private messages.
He
and
said
private
he's more
jokes.
like Brandon Kavanagh's more like DJ Quicksilver than David Silva.
Wow, terrible banter.
This lad is a coach to follow himself. He's a very aspiring coach.
Like a game of
he's gone down in my.
Tell us
his down in my estimation. There. No, it won't be.
Okay, well, don't do that anymore, please.
But he's wrong.
Okay,
Brandon Kavanagh will prove
We're
him
going
wrong.
to take a quick break right now.
Big news from St. Mary's.
Football on Off the Ball.
In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app. Multiples made easy and personalised content on every sport. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
Lunchtime Live.
Is your child being bullied? Do you feel you need help with it? James O'Higgins Norman from the Anti-Bullying Centre in DCU will be joining me on Lunchtime Live to answer all your queries on Monday. Get them into us at lunchtimelive@newstalk.com.
Lunchtime Live with Ciara Kelly.
Thanks to VideoDoc.
Weekdays from midday on Newstalk.
What would you do with a Mini in 48 hours? You could go from Mallinhead to Misenhead, from Dingle to Donegal. You could use it as a runaround for the kids, Hit some waves out west or wander into work in new wheels? With the Mini 191 48-hour test drive, what you do is up to you. Just bring it back in 48 hours. It won't be easy. To book your Mini 191 48-hour test drive, visit mini.ie or drop into your local Mini retailer. Terms and conditions apply.
As she removed the wrapping and the elegant gift box revealed itself, I knew she still had no idea what was inside. Hold on, I said. Before you open it, shouldn't you be thinking of your 3 wishes? Her blue eyes twinkled like the sunlight on Loch Lean. The Europe Hotel and Resort, she said in a whisper, turning the voucher over in her fingers. And, I said, you don't have to bring me. You and the girls are always talking about Espa at the Europe. Give a voucher for the Europe Hotel and Resort Killarney. A stay with us stays with you forever. Visit theeurope.com.
At Eason this Christmas, choose a book, the gift they'll love, and get amazing wow prices like Donal Skehan's Meals and Minutes for $22.99. Get The Skin Nerd or autobiographies by Des Cahill or Davy Fitzgerald, just $19.99 each. And The GAA and the War of Independence by Tim Pat Coogan, only $23.99. Eason, be inspired.
'Twas the night before Christmas and all through the house, new appliances had been installed with a click of a mouse. A fridge freezer, a dishwasher, new oven and hob. A 50-inch TV and speakers, just the job. You see, at Appliances Delivered, we always endeavour to make each festive season the best one ever. And with deliveries up to Christmas, you can count on us to get Christmas sorted without any fuss. AppliancesDelivered.ie. Christmas delivered.
Open up your door. I can't see your face no more.
Whether they're around the corner or around the world, this Christmas, make sure your loved ones know you're thinking of them. Send love with a Christmas card or a parcel with An Post. Get your Christmas stamp booklet at your local post office, selected retailers, or at onpost.com. An Post. This Christmas, your world's wide open.
Open up the door.
Electric Picnic 2019, the Music and Arts Festival. Stradbally Hall, County Laois, August 30th to September 1st, subject to licence. A beautiful 600-acre estate of rolling hills, green landscapes, forests of mystery, and home to Ireland's music soul. With incredible music, art, theatre, comedy, food, and holistic health. It's the most delightfully diverse lineup of the year. Electric Picnic. Tickets on sale this Monday at 9 a.m. See electricpicnic.ie.
Celebrate Christmas with Centra. We have great offers in store. Try our new Inspired by Centra all butter pastry mince pies, half price now €2. Inspired by Centra pizza range, any 2 for €8 or €5 each. And Yellowtail and Rare Vineyard selected wine range, 3 for €20 or €9 each. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy golf sensibly.
From a high-tech SUV to a vintage red Capri. From the latest 3-litre to a soft-top 2-seater. With one car ad placed every minute, find the presents you really want this Christmas on Done Deal. Done Deal. Discover and drive.
To celebrate Dublin as a UEFA Euro 2020 host city, the National Football Exhibition is here and free to visit from Sunday, December 2nd to Sunday, December 9th. The first stop is Printworks, Dublin Castle. This free exhibition celebrates 60 years of European championships and all aspects of football in Ireland. The National Football Exhibition, December 2nd to 9th at the Printworks, Dublin Castle. Download the National Football Exhibition app for details.
Ever wondered where standards come from? If you're involved in innovation, you probably have. And the simple answer is, they're developed by people like you. NSAI is the National Standards Authority of Ireland. When we're developing a new standard or updating an existing one, your expertise is invaluable. So you can help influence the direction of your industry and be among the first to hear about new developments. If you'd like to participate, visit nsai.ie today or call 01 807 3800. That's 01 807 3800.
Every journey, everywhere in Ireland is always within reach, behind the wheel of a 191 BMW. Because right now, every BMW is available with reduced prices and 1.9% APR on selected models. Find out about the full range of offers at discoverbmw.ie or contact your local retailer. Finance subject to status. Over 18s. Irish residents only. Terms and conditions apply. A guarantee may be required. BMW Financial Services Ireland DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back. We're into the closing stages of the 3 o'clock kickoffs in the Premier League. Manchester City about to go 5 points clear at the top. They lead Bournemouth by 3-1 in the final minute at the Etihad Stadium. Just a reminder that OTB-AM are broadcasting live from Kildare Village on Monday morning to celebrate their men's offering in the village this Christmas. We're going to be live across all our social channels this Monday from 7:45am from the Under Armour store. The broadcast brought to you with thanks to Kildare Village, where there's something extraordinary every day. Come meet Johnny Ward in the person. See that he is a real life human being.
I could emerge with a nice tin of fruit from the experience, you know.
We'll be delighted for you, Johnny.
Kildare Village is actually a great spot, I have to say. It's very enjoyable. And yes,
this is why he gets to go.
Yes, I am willing to take any offers of free clobber.
Yeah, Dolphin Rugby Club is also a brilliant place. I love those guys. Yeah. I cannot wait to get out there next Friday.
Dolphin Rugby Club.
Dolphin Rugby Club, the finest rugby club in all of Cork. Without a question. Coming to you next Friday, live. So, we're going to go to St Mary's because about 10 minutes ago, Dan McDonnell said, like, when are we ever going to see an Irish player get, like a teenager, starting a big game and just putting in this devastating performance? Well, today is going to be that day because Peter Hood is at St Mary's. Peter, tell us the team news.
Yeah, that's the news. A young Irishman, Michael Obafemi, starts today, and he is the man that Mark Hughes will work today to keep him in a job, because this is a massive game with both managers feeling the pressure. But I would say Mark Hughes' seat is hotter than Jose Mourinho's at the moment. Just one win, a lack of goals. And remember, Southampton haven't been one of the big six for 2.5 years. They lost to Manchester United last year. But Michael Obafemi is one of 4 changes that Mark Hughes makes to the team that lost at Fulham last week. Also, they're going for a back 3 here, and there's an odd little thing about the lineup, because Cedric has been playing at the right wing back role, or right back, for all season, but he will start at left back to allow another youngster, Yann Valery, a young French right back, attacking right back, just 19 years old, signed this season. He will start at right wing back. It'll be a back 3 today, and there where the changes have come, actually, because Stevens, Vestergaard also come in as well, and Gabbiadini drops out, Austin drops out, Hoyt drops out, Target's not fit, he drops out as well. So United, though, I need an extra few minutes to go through their changes.
Try and figure out what Manchester United are doing in this game.
Well, I'll tell you, they've made 6 changes from last week, and let's go through them. McTominay is going to play at centre half, one of those changes, with Phil Jones in a back 4, with Luke Shaw coming in. So 3 of the changes are in the defence, and we're also going to see Fellaini come into midfield, Herrera as well, Luke Shaw, as I've said, and Marcus Rashford's going to start as well. So there are lots of different changes. That's 6 in all that Jose Mourinho has made to his team. It's as simple as that. And well, it's going to be a big game. I really feel that Mark Hughes' time could be up today if they don't get the result. There are real rumblings around the ground and around the club at the moment that victory is absolutely essential, I'm afraid to say. And I'm afraid that Mark is under, a man that I like very much, is under pressure. United have gone, I have to be fair, for an attacking lineup, because Rashford and Lukaku will play in forward roles. Southampton, I would say, Mark Hughes has picked a team to not to lose today. But Michael Obafemi will be playing up front with Nathan Redmond, and that says it all, really, about the lineup today. Mark Hughes can't afford to lose this one, guys.
All right.
It's big news. I mean, it's to have a player actually starting for a Premier League team up front is big news for Ireland at the moment.
Yeah, it is. It is massive. Peter, thanks a lot for that. We'll talk to you a little bit later. Southampton against Manchester United at 5:30. One of our youngest players in recent times to start a Premier League game.
Yeah,
we'll finally get to see what he's like.
Born in the year 2000. Yeah, he played during the week. They played Leicester, wasn't it, in the cup match? He actually missed a very good chance.
The only thing I've seen of Michael Obafemi playing for Southampton is missing.
Oh no, I watched one of those YouTube videos of his.
Yeah, for the underage. But remember when he came on against Spurs to make his debut, and the ball came across to him.
Oh, he just didn't get the connection.
On the penalty spot, his first ever touch. And he just completely...
It's no harm that he's playing against a defence that isn't really full of confidence at the moment. I should also mention my mate Chris has just texted. He said the hipster choice, Valeron, Deportivo.
Oh, yeah.
I think he scored against Shells.
Yeah, he was involved in that campaign. That was actually a decent Deportivo side, wasn't it?
They got to the Champions League
previous year.
semi-final the previous year, and then they played Shells and were scoreless after a full game and an hour into the second leg.
Yeah, so
what might have been.
There may be an opportunity for Obafemi here against this United defence with his pace up against Phil Jones, and it looks like Scott McTominay. So the United team is De Gea in goals. It looks as though it's a back four of Ashley Young at right back, Luke Shaw at left back, and Phil Jones and Scott McTominay in the centre. Then Fellaini, Matic and Herrera playing behind Paul Pogba, with Rashford and Lukaku as a front two.
Yeah, like not really blessed with sort of obvious width. I mean, obviously Rashford will give you something there, but it does. Yeah, it's an interesting combination, all right. We'll see if that's the way it actually they line up. But yeah, certainly looking at a couple of the score apps and so on, they have them lining up that way. Not always correct, but certainly experimental. But it'd be good to see him get. You think, he's, people speak about Obafemi. He's very, very pacey, and certainly the goals I've seen him score in that 23s. A lot of them were on the break, and sort of a real, sort of an electric counter attack. So
well, you look at him as well physically, and you feel even though he's 18, he'd be able for this. He's built like an absolute tank. Like he's a strong boy. Yeah. So he shouldn't have an issue in that side of it.
Should be overawed.
And these are the type of days that can make your career.
Born in the year 2000, playing Premier League football now. There you go.
What have you done with your life?
Not very much, to be honest.
Look here every Saturday
Moved to Dublin in 2000.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
Look at us now.
Leaving cert in 2000.
Giving plugs for Kildare Village.
Yeah, did my leaving cert in 2000.
Still hoping to get a suit out of a radio appearance. What have we become?
Kildare Village.
Subconsciously. Is that all you're going to do for the show on Monday morning?
Village.
Wow. Lads, Jose is actively looking for the sack. Playing McTominay at centre back when he hasn't made any of the past 4 or 5 matchday squads is shocking. He's got Rojo on the bench over Bailly. Has Rojo played this year? The mind boggles, says Damo in Leaslip. Is there
playing is a bit worrying if you've invested in Man United.
It's all about you, John.
No. Well, yeah.
There's an actual game taking place.
Just watching him during the week, though, like, Fellaini is so bad in general play. Why don't they use his aerial prowess more? Like, he's very, very hard to defend against when he's...
So what are you saying? You play him up front?
I'd be bringing him on with 10, 20 minutes to go and hit the ball long, go direct.
But that's generally what they've been doing.
Well, he shouldn't be starting. Like, he does. He's very, very... Even with his haircut, he's still not able to do much in general play at all.
Is there a weariness, an envy, if only the FAI would... reluctance to mention Iceland as a well-documented policy approach centred on quality of coaching delivered by an abundance of highly qualified coaches?
Well, Iceland obviously...
They don't have GA or rugby though either.
Like ourselves, I mean, Iceland is an island, but it's very remote, in its own way, and they've had to take control of what they do. And we were in Iceland a couple of years back for a Dundalk game, and they have a lot of qualified coaches and stuff. And again, like now, you see, the Iceland senior team has actually had a dreadful Nations League, so there'll be a lot of, well, we can't, stop talking about Iceland as a comparison.
They were in League A.
Yeah, what they've done is still incredibly impressive over a period of time.
Lads, it's much easier to create a rugby player than a soccer player. You just put them in a gym and throw away the key.
Well, I think it's more nuanced than that. But the one thing we do have over rugby is that we don't have serious issues with regard to what the actual sport is going to do to your body long term. And I think that a lot of parents would not really want their kids to play rugby.
I have a 9-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl, moved home from Toronto this year. I can tell you we've had hassle finding a soccer team to join. Basketball is a joke unless you live in Templeogue. Gymnastics don't even try to be competitive here. GA and rugby have a good setup. They welcome and encourage players. FAI and IBA need to wake up, says
That's
Karen.
Interesting. Yeah, because it's interesting in Dublin.
What area is that person from, actually?
Karen has not told us where she's from.
Yeah, but Dublin, obviously, the GA is
huge,
incredibly successful.
Are there issues finding a soccer team in Dublin?
There shouldn't
at
be.
Underage level?
There's lots of them. That's why I'm curious as to where, there will be parts of the country, obviously.
Well, that's that Blitz I was at this morning. There was 8 teams and I had never heard of 6 of them before.
So all Dublin teams.
All Dublin teams.
Like the GA probably has more of a role in the communities they are in than a lot of football teams. Like, and
are they just better at publicising it?
Well, like how many members do?
Yeah, like a lot of the underage coaches are volunteers as well. Like sometimes there is a feeling that like the culture of volunteerism is just with one sport.
What the Dublin champions that are playing
Ballyboden.
Ballyboden have, I think, 5,000 members or thereabouts.
I know from talking to my brother.
I live in Ballyboden and my children have gone to their summer camps where there'll be 200 kids there between 6 and 9 every week of the summer.
Yeah. I know Kula as well, like sort of a niece and nephews that are living in the sort of the Kula area, you know, and they are sort of unbelievably proactive in terms of sort of like a form of indoctrination, you know. But that's what it is.
Sounds like North Korea.
That's what it is, though. I mean, there is an element of that's what, you know, you have to, and there is an element that the community buy into it. So, you know, you feel like you're part of the community. But there are football clubs that are very much part of their community as well. Like, you know, some of the clubs in the North Inner City, and what they do is like, you know, sort of a tremendous service as well.
Full times coming in from the Premier League. Manchester City, 5 points clear at the top. Let's hear about their victory over Bournemouth from Darren Stanich.
Man City 3, Bournemouth 1. Sterling man of the match. City maintain their 100% home record in the Premier League. It was Bernardo Silva who fired the opener for the hosts on 15 minutes after a Begovic parry, but City was sloppy. The visitors fought back, deservedly level at the break. Callum Wilson's fine ever beat Edison on the stroke of half-time, but then Raheem Sterling burst into life. He struck the post with one effort and then stabbed home on 56 minutes. Bournemouth created problems, couldn't find the equaliser. Guttingham made the game safe. Man City 3, Bournemouth 1.
So City 5 points clear ahead of Liverpool playing Everton in the Merseyside derby tomorrow. You'll hear that live on Off the Ball. Bournemouth made it difficult for them, but they grounded out, having rested a lot of players as well. Manchester City 38 points out of a possible 42 for Pep Guardiola.
Very hard to see where they're going to drop points, and at the moment watching Liverpool, it's not quite as hard to see them dropping points.
No, you wouldn't be at all surprised.
They're going to coast it, aren't they?
We've had a disagreement on this, but I had a friendly wager with Dan over the handicap at the end of the season, how many points Man City will win by. I'm afraid he's probably going to win the bet.
What do you say, Dan?
I think it was
6.5.
Yeah, I would be thinking it was actually 12 would be fair enough.
Yeah, against Liverpool it was, rather than the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm not too worried about that. Yeah.
Liverpool have to win tomorrow.
They certainly do.
Yeah,
and a lot of other games as well.
Are you going to that game tomorrow?
I am. I'll be alongside Kevin Kilban. He of many Merseyside derbies.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's definitely he's a popular figure around Everton.
He certainly is. Legendary
figure.
Good lad is our
I saw there was a video posted there of him smashing in a goal for West Brom. In the West Brom Wolves derby, which is a really passionate derby, because it wasn't a thrashing in that derby that did for Mick McCarthy basically.
Well, Keith Andrews scored in that derby for West Brom as well, and they've never fully forgiven him as a former Wolves man.
Yeah, it's a ferocious derby,
Yeah. Only one Irish player's ever scored in a Merseyside derby in the Premier League.
Oh.
I'll leave it with you while we go to Selhurst Park. Good man, Dan.
That was impressive.
Yeah.
That was very impressive. Palace against Burnley, Andrew Cheal.
Crystal Palace 2, Burnley 0. Palace ahead early on through James MacArthur. In truth, it was more of a cross than a shot, but it deceived the keeper and bounced in off the far post. Joe Hart in the Burnley goal then pulled up a string of fine saves to keep his side in the game. Zaha hit the bar, and Taylor's brilliant sliding tackle thwarted MacArthur at the last ditch. Andros Townsend finally settled it 12 minutes from time with an absolutely superb left footer into the far top corner. Palace 2, Burnley 0.
First home win of the season for Crystal Palace leaves Burnley inside the relegation zone. Next to the King Power Stadium, Leicester against Watford. Derek Clark.
Full-time Leicester City 2, Watford 0 as the Foxes leapfrog the Hornets. The goals coming in the first half courtesy of a Jamie Vardy penalty after 12 minutes. James Maddison added the second on 23 minutes, ending off a lovely move. Demarai Gray could have made it 3-0 in the second half, but struck the upright while Watford passed up a hatful of opportunities and had Etienne Capoue sent off late on for showing his studs in a challenge. It's finished here, Leicester City 2, Watford 0.
Next to St James's Park, Newcastle's good run of form has come to a crushing halt. They're up against West Ham. Stephen Goldsmith.
Newcastle 0, West Ham 3. These two sides went toe-to-toe with each other today, clearly believing the 3 points were there to be won. But it was West Ham who delivered the knockout blows. Javier Hernandez back in the side today with 2 goals, 1 in each half. The second typifying his side's performance. A quick breakaway move, ruthlessly dispatched by the Mexican. The third was similar, but it was Felipe Anderson who scored, shrugging off his marker, getting into the box and firing home in the dying seconds. It finished Newcastle 0, West Ham 3.
And finally, we're going to go to the John Smith Stadium, where it was Huddersfield against Brighton and Joe Townsend.
Huddersfield 1, Brighton 2. This match hinged on Steve Mounier sending off on the half hour for a high challenge on Brighton's Yves Bissouma. At that point, Huddersfield led through a first-minute header from Matthias Jorgensen after Bruno had cleared the ball back into his own box. After Mounier's dismissal, Shane Duffy headed home on the stroke of half-time. Then a second assist for Solly March came with a near-identical left-footed right-wing cross that Florin Adone stooped to head in midway through the second period. Albion saw the game out and the Huddersfield fans booed off referee Michael Oliver. Huddersfield 1, Brighton 2.
So that's you through all the scores in the Premier League. We'll run it down through the Championship right after the news at 5 o'clock. Dan, Johnny, thank you as always.
Thanks as ever.
Going anywhere interesting Monday, Johnny? Heading on?
What am I doing on Monday?
I just can't remember, but I'll tell you, next Friday, December 7th, we're going to be live from the home of Dolphin Rugby Club. That's Irish Independent Park, which you'll be glad to hear we're getting.
I'm going to wake up
good mention in. No longer Musgrave Park around here, Irish Independent Park.
Waking up in the middle of the night.
Dolphin.
It's an insight into Johnny.
You saw that story about the dolphin during the week. He was like, what's going on?
Like Troy McClure and the Fishes.
Anyways, it's our latest Off the Ball roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club. We'll be previewing Munster's Heineken Champions Cup clash with Cass that weekend in the company of some Dolphin and Munster legends. If you want to get there too, go to offtheball.com.
Dolphin are in Kildare Village now?
It's the latest Off the Ball roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club. There won't be actual dolphins. They're not going to transport that dolphin from the Liffey down to Cork.
Just remember, like Jerry's thoughts, just give your kids that bit of love. You had them at the Blitz today, even if they weren't like the best player in the team, there's always a bright future ahead and all that. Give them a bit of encouragement.
That's Johnny Ward's TED talk there.
Yeah, You agree with me, or?
I am, absolutely, Johnny.
Yeah, I think you'd be a loving
I'll bring them to a League of Ireland game and the New Year.
You should bring Johnny into the Dadcast. I mean, he doesn't have any kids, but he could just bring something. He could bring something to the whole thing.
I played a fatherly role with your kids in Belfield one time. They were kicking me in the back for much of the second half of UCD and Go United, and I took it.
Thanks for that, Johnny. Yeah. On that note, we'll take a quick break.
Join that conversation. Text us on 53106. Texts cost 30 cents.
The all-new Dacia Duster is more rugged, robust and even better looking. And from €149 per month, it's got the perfect figure too. It's the sort of car you'd swipe right on. The sort of car you'd do the dirt with. And by that I mean take it for a drive off-road.